And welcome to the Hot Biz Fluent podcast, where we get all up in your business. So let's talk. Today's guests are brought to you today by Crush City Realty Group, your premier Houston real estate experts, and luxury real estate agent Alyssa Emmons, where everything she touches turns to sold. And finally, Covo Capital, fast, flexible financing for all your commercial lending needs. This podcast is for informational purposes only. The views expressed in this podcast by guests may not be those of the Biz Fluent podcast. Don't forget to stay to the end to find out how to get over now. Please welcome your host with the.
Hey, everybody.
Let's go.
Let's hope that comes out. Oh my God. I so need to get the pre-recorded thing done. This is not anybody else's fault but mine, but here we are. We are not doing this a fourth time today, people. So you're going to take us how we are. My name is JP Byers, as Josh may or may not have told you. I am the host of the Biz Fluent podcast. And here we are with the rest of my team, Josh Perella and Miss Alyssa Emmons. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Hello. I always worry that it's just me that's not receiving what Josh is putting out.
And there's actually good possibilities. So, I mean, by the time
maybe
he's uploading, yeah,
we're both on Xfinity, like.
Well, I think all three of us are on Xfinity, and so I'm actually going to be swapping over personally and getting a USB-C to RJ45, and then I've got an actual Cat 8 cable that's gold plated. Yeah, like a gold plated Cat.
That is huge.
Yeah, that is got no lag in it, period, so that I don't continue to have the same problem because my Wi-Fi is just not very stable in this older building that I live in. So, anyway, but I live on the water, so it is what it is. I don't care. No. So here we are today, and today we have a special guest that is coming through, and one of the very few companies here in Houston that actually does some plastic injection manufacturing right here in the good old United States, even better than the United States, right here in Texas. So he is a TCU grad, kind of like Joshua Perella here. So he's not an Aggie. We'll forgive him. It's all good. I'm a graduate of high school, so I'm not going to say anything. But my high school colors were still maroon and silver, so I got that at least. Andrew, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Josh, why don't you introduce Andrew? Kind of give us a little bit about him.
I don't really know this guy. No. Met this guy a number of years ago. I don't even want to say how many to give my age away, but played rugby with each other at TCU and became roommates over time and have known each other now for just way too many years. And I'll let him get into a little bit about the company, but I know his father had purchased the company a number of years ago. They took it over, a very successful plastic injection company, and right here in Houston. There's really only three major ones in Houston. They're one of them, and I actually even used to work for him a number of years ago too as a sales guy, and it was a great stepping stone to where I am today. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity. But with that said, Andrew's an amazing dude. He's going to give us some great insights on the world of manufacturing, talk a little bit about AI, and we'll just see where the conversation goes. But Andrew, if you'd like to say a little bit about yourself and tell us about Houston Plastic Products.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. And you forgot one part. You were also the officiant in my wedding a number of years ago.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, pretty big one to forget, bro.
Yeah. Well, some history there, but no. Yeah, but thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Houston Plastic Products is located here in Houston. We are a thermoplastic injection molding company. We've been around since the late 1950s. We serve customers globally, and we actually have parts on the International Space Station. We've made parts that have gone on former spacecraft, some defense, oil and gas, medical devices. You've probably seen our parts out in the field. You just wouldn't know what they are because they're typically a smaller piece of a bigger part and product. But we generally produce 7 to 10 million units, individual units per year. And we occupy about 10 or 12 acres on the southwest side of Houston. So injection molding is our main thing. We can do tooling, machining of exotic materials. But we're glad to represent Houston and in the world and also locally. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize, that we actually do some of that thing here in We do. All of us, all four of us.
All right, Chandler, calm down.
So, manufacturing going on here in the United States, especially in the local Houston area. There is the very first polypropylene plant on the planet was built right here in Houston. It was the Chevron Phillips, or it was Chevron Phillips when they closed the plant down, but it was originally Phillips 66 polypropylene, one of the very first real injectable plastics that came around. So what kind of exotic materials are y'all using now?
So exotic is really in the eye of the beholder. Polypropylene, polystyrenes, anything in the ethylene side of things is going to be a commodity-based material, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we excel are called engineering grade materials. So we're looking at nylons, highly filled nylons. So it's a PA66, anywhere from unfilled, which is 0%, all the way up to 40, 50% glass strand. And you can even do glass spheres. You can add other fillers into it. And then on the more extreme and more exotic material, it's something called PEEK, polyether ketone. And it can go anywhere from an unfilled material to really high fill with mineral or glass. And those are used in really interesting ways. PEEK is also used as a implantable device. So you'll see, transition from titanium to a PEEK product that can be like a prosthetic or something that's implanted in a patient. And then in our case, we make a lot of PEEK parts that are really large and very expensive that go downhole in the oil and gas industry. And the reason they do that is because that material is really resistant to high heat and pressure and like H2S gas. So it's a really good material for those really hard to get places and really bad places on Earth. And then also, again, as an implantable.
Yeah, it's funny. You're like, hey, it'll go in the depths of the earth. It can handle lots of heat. It can handle lots of nastiness and muck and grime. And by the way, it can also go in your body. Now, PEK
very
is
durable material.
Yeah, PEK.
Have you guys gotten into? Go ahead.
Like PEK is actually one of the more new and exotic materials when it comes to plastics and stuff like that. If I remember correctly, a lot of the new implants that you're talking about them using aren't even injected molded anymore. They're starting to actually do the new style wet to dry printing with PEK, right?
Yeah, that's right. So PEK is a little bit different than PEEK, but yeah,
okay.
printed PEEK is doable. It just depends really on the how many units there are going to be. So what I think is really cool, especially in the medical device world, is that you can have a couple of bioengineers on staff and work with a surgeon, let's say, and they can model an implant on a prosthetic implant for a patient. So in this case, I always use the example of like a jawbone, right? Somebody had cancer, ate away the bone. The surgeon can do a 3D scan of the patient, and then the bioengineer can work and model and create an implantable part that's unique and specific to that patient alone. So cool. I think it's really cool. It's really cool technology. It helps people. It's not just something that's a one-off piece or made for everybody. It's a unique part and product for that patient.
Yeah. Josh, go ahead. What were you talking about, brother?
I was going to say, have you guys gotten into? I know a number of years ago you had talked about it, but you got the high heat side, but you also have the cryogenic side. Have you guys gotten into any of those?
We've looked into it, but we just haven't really gone into that side of the business yet. I think right now we're real focused on what's going to happen in the next 6 months for the economy and where things go.
Is everybody
interesting? Yeah. What we have found interesting in this business is that our business is so diverse, but we see a couple things that work against each other. So when oil and gas is doing really, really well, medical parts aren't doing so hot. And then when oil and gas is really far down, like let's say 2020 and 21, the medical side of the business is through the roof.
Yeah.
So it's a nice way to balance our business, but it's just something that we've seen and picked up on.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never would have thought about a correlation being there, and
So you
that
have
it would
to
be opposite.
So the reason you'd think about it that way is because everybody doesn't think about, like, the large majority of your O&G workers are the actual physical guys that are out there doing the job, right? Like, you've got for every one office worker, you've got somewhere between 5 and 10 guys actually in the field. Well, those guys that are out in the field that are tearing up hips and knees and all the issues that they're causing themselves, those guys can't leave because they're making money. And as soon as the boom goes away, they're like, all right, cool. I still have a job. I still have insurance, but I can't be at work, or I don't need to be at work. And once I'm no longer needed in the field, I'm going to go get all of my medical stuff taken care of. And so you'll find that there's a big correlation because of it. And there's a ton of oil workers, especially in Texas, Louisiana. So, man, all that stuff is super awesome. Unfortunately, our podcast really isn't the place where you're going to sell your product, because I mean, I have never gotten a chance to get into printing, and then as a lot of the people that watch the podcast know, my wife and I, we just downgraded from a 2,400 square foot house to 1,000 square foot condo, and so I don't have the space for printing anymore. And since I don't have the space for printing, I have kind of gotten away from being a research nerd on all the printing stuff. The biggest thing though is we want to hear, your dad and you bought this business how many years ago?
A little over a decade ago. So in 2012, we actually closed on his birthday. And I was at Merrill Lynch at the time, and I helped
Wow.
organize the financing and getting the deal closed. It wasn't my first transaction. I've been involved in a number of other transactions. But when I left Merrill Lynch and came on board to help run the company, we were almost, I don't want to say 100% oil and gas, but we were real heavy on oil and gas. And our first call to action for us was to diversify our business and customer base. And so that was the very first thing that we did. And I'm glad and we're lucky that we were successful in that. But I think any business really needs to.
We just lost you.
Audio.
Yeah, we just lost audio. Are you there still?
I'm here.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Can you?
Just a glitch.
Yeah. So, all right. So, you say that you felt the need to diversify, which I don't disagree. Like, a lot of people think of oil and gas as being an industry that might have ups and downs, but doesn't really get hit hard. But in all actuality, with the last presidential election, O&G got hammered hard. They got hammered hard during the Obama administration as well. I mean, when you start seeing gas prices go up, everybody thinks, oh, those gas companies are like ultra profitable. But the thing is, it's not just gasoline and diesel are just the smallest minority of the products that they sell. And so, yeah, being able to diversify in that is a big deal. I think one of the things that's misunderstood when it comes to the need to go from a single line of business to trying to diversify is people don't understand the amount of effort, time that it takes. So when you got on and you were researching which direction to go with your injection molding business, where did you start?
So where did we start with trying to decide where we want to diversify our business from into? We took a look at our existing customer roles at the time, right? Our customer cards, and we looked at which ones were good repeat business, which ones were highly profitable to us, and which ones were just very loyal customers. And we took those customers and modeled them and said, okay, these are our best customers. We want to go after other prospects and other potential customers that look and act and feel like these awesome customers. So we had the prototype customer and prospect, and then we started really drilling down and going after that new business. So we already had a couple of our feet in the door at a couple of customers, just a small business, and we were able in the first 18 months to go from let's say a $10,000, $20,000 a month customer to easily $300,000 or $400,000 a month by just being very front and center with them and transparent and honest, and showing them that we were ready to pick up the slack if they had any, and they certainly did. And it was a really good strategy, and we executed very well. And the team at the time was should get all the credit. They were very successful in getting that new business to us.
So I think it's something that there's a lot of people that are in business that don't really understand, and people that aren't necessarily in business, but also have the idea and the thought of going into business, right? The guy that works down at the plant, the guy that works as a maintenance person, whatever it is, like they know people. And I think it's really important that people understand that the fastest way to grow any business, I don't care how it is to leverage current relationships. And so like you said, you guys were handling a very small, portion of business with your new customers where you were diversifying, but you turned around and leveraged that relationship where you already had rapport established. They already know you put out a good product, and you're like, hey, we want to do more. Where could you use this? It's a smart idea. And you talk about turning your sales time from 6 months to a year to where in 18 months, you guys were doing 6 times, 7 times, 600%, 700% more business with those people than you were prior. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's we were lucky, but I think a lot of it comes down to just seeing the opportunity and being available for them. So it's a little bit of luck, but it's also executing on the strategy and
Sure.
being sure that our customers are warm to the idea, and then also showcasing them ways that we can help them and help them excel. And what I tell our team all the time too is it's not our job to make parts. Anybody can do that. It's not the barrier to entry is high for capital, but it's not exactly rocket science, right? Where we come in is it's our job to make our customers, like the buyers, the supply chain managers, the VPs, we want to make them look good to their boss. We want them to think of HEP as literally their corporate ladder partner in helping them grow within the company they're at. And another way we get more of our business from them is as they excel and climb the corporate ladder. Sometimes they go to other customers or go to other businesses, and they work on a project and they say, you know what, I've worked on a project similar to this with HPP. Let's give them a call and see if they can help us out on this new product that we're developing. And so we're making lifelong connections, and that's how we network. And that's as time goes on, people leave and change positions, and they continue to rely on us to produce products for them.
I think it's important. Go ahead. I'll take all the time, all of it.
I want to say something. Speaking of change, what are some of the changes you see in the industry? I mean, manufacturing is one of those things that's always changing, always finding efficiencies. What do you guys see in the next 5 to 10 years? Whether that's AI, because we seem to always highlight AI now, or process, or where you guys do your tooling, maybe even, or anything along those lines as to big changes that you guys see in the next 5 to 10 years.
I can tell you the most immediate change that we're seeing is there's a lot of corporate type business that's trying to pull their assets out of China, and it doesn't mean it's being reshored to the United States. A lot of it goes to Mexico, but we're seeing a lot of it go to Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, even Taiwan, South Korea. But what I think that's the immediate, near future. In the 5 to 10 year range, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Basically, is that AI is definitely coming front and center. We already use AI currently, where it's useful to us. It could be anything from marketing information to calculating some really basic stuff on the whim. You just have to check the numbers a little bit. But what we see and what we get excited about is vision systems for QC, for automated production. So the AI can be an operator at the workstation but it's not a person. It's just it's an algorithm. It's a computer that's doing the same work as what an operator would do. And we don't see that replacing the operator. We see that complementing them and working in conjunction with them. It makes them more productive and faster. And it also increases the quality aspect of the components, because if the process is repeatable and it stays within a certain range, then we know the parts are high quality parts. They're optimized, and the customer will ultimately be happy with what we can deliver on. So I think AI is definitely going to be, it's going to be before 5 years. It'll be here in the next 2 to 3, I think. It's already being used in small spaces, but I think it'll grow exponentially from there. I love it.
And
I'm excited about it.
I wanted to hit the nail on the coffin as far as what we were just talking about. Also, from a lending perspective too, as far as having diversity, that's a huge deal. I actually turned down a couple customers while I was still at Wells Fargo because they were old school mentality. It was a lady who owned the it was a machining company, and they only had 2 major customers. The bank totally said, "Nope, we're not gonna do the deal." Great numbers, had a history of great numbers. Everything on the metric scale that we would look at for a deal was perfect, except for the diversity of clients, because it's such a big deal. If you, just like you were saying, and you're talking industrial, you're talking industry, not just clients. This lady only had 2 major clients in one industry. So, but she was old. She wasn't really into the business anymore. And actually, that was probably a great opportunity for someone to come in and buy them. But who knows what
I was
happened.
thinking that's a good acquisition time for that. Yeah.
Yep. Good acquisition time, of course. Yeah.
Which that was one of the things we were blessed also about talking with Alyssa last week about is how exactly we use AI and how we incorporate it into our businesses. And like Alyssa said, AI is not replacing people yet. And we are a very, very long time away from AI actually replacing humans. However, the efficiency that's added to a human through AI processes is astronomically beneficial, and you actually make your human more efficient, and it's great. Outside of that, are you guys looking at AI for modeling at all, or do you guys look at like I saw a jet engine, I don't know, last year developed by AI, and once it was actually tested and looked at, it was supposedly one of the most efficient potentially efficient jet engines ever produced, and it was produced because of all of the knowledge compounded in once. So when it comes to having to do your tooling and redesigning of tools, or your new, I guess you guys are, the actual mold is part of your tooling, right? So when you guys are talking about your tooling, are you guys looking at tooling through the AI model?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we definitely do tooling models, and I think this is where AI is already taken a foothold in our industry. It's been available for a couple of years now.
Yep.
So there's something called mold flow analysis. You can literally model how the material, the melt, is going to flow through the channel of the tool, and it'll identify some weak spots. It might identify some burning areas. And then it'll also allow you to go back to the designer, to the engineer who designed the part, and say, "Hey, this is a really well designed part, but we have a couple concerns." And usually the concerns are around moldability, manufacturability. So we call it DFM, design for moldability, right? You can design an amazing, beautiful part that pushes the limits of math and geometries. But if you can't make it, then what's the point? And if you can't make it well, then you're really out of luck on that one too. So we have to think about these things as humans, right? AI can make things look amazing and perfect, but can we actually make it? Can it actually be produced? Can it actually be used in the field? And that's where AI does help us, and it gets us to the 95, 96%. But to really get to full closure, 100%, where the tool is designed appropriately and optimized, we still have to use a little bit of human input to make sure that can be done. But it truncates the speed a lot. I was just saying,
go ahead.
The time to produce a tool went from 20 weeks to now a really good tool can be produced within 4 to 6 weeks. It's really quick. It's really fast. Yeah.
Wow. So 20% of the time. But you still have the same issue that you're used to have back when it took you 20 weeks. You had an engineer that would say, this is going to be good, like you said. And then an actual maintenance guy, a mechanic, a guy that's actually working with the product goes, it needs to be fixed. And here's what you need to do to fix it, because I'm the guy that actually uses it. Like
that's usually how it goes. Yeah. So we have on our staff, process engineers, design engineers, tooling engineers, and they all bring a different perspective and point of view. And we all have, dozens of years of experience, and that allows us to go back to the customer and say, hey, this is a great part, but we need to do something here because we know in the next 5 years, this isn't going to work out, or it's not really quite what you want. So really, that's how we start our conversations with our customers is we can get you where you want to be. We just want to know what you want and where you want to be. And if we can clarify all that, then the rest is easy.
Can you be more specific? Can you give us a specific piece, part, or something that you guys have worked with here recently?
Yeah. So there is an oil field project that we were a part of. It's a jacket of sorts, and it goes down well. The customer is well known around the area. We were going to make hundreds of thousands of these parts, but the part looked beautiful as it was designed, but really we couldn't produce it to the way it was designed. Right? We had to go back to the customer and say, hey, we know that quality is a big thing for you, and we know repeatability and cost is probably more important to you as well. So if we eliminate some of these design features, if they're not really relevant to the field, if they just look pretty or just look, for whatever reason the engineer put it there, we could go back to the customer and say, hey, let's get you some cost savings by doing some design changes. Let's add some rigidity. Let's remove some material from this part to get your costs back in line of what you're expecting. I think I just lost my screen. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you perfectly good.
Okay. For some reason.
So your screen just went to sleep, but your camera was still working
Now,
hard.
yeah.
Now he's lost.
He'll come back. Something that was really cool to me when I worked for the company, and as I learned plastics, and even got into project development as well later on. Something that was really cool to me was physically looking at plastics after knowing the basics of how plastics is made. So next time you pick up a piece of plastic, whether it's a plastic fork or a toy or a tool or anything like that, you back?
I'm back.
There he is. Look at it and look at the points of entry where the plastic came through. You'll always see these little dots with a cutoff. Usually that's the injection point, correct, Andrew? Yeah. You'll see swirls. The gate, yeah. Sometimes you'll see swirls in the plastic. Usually that's going to be cheaper plastic. They didn't have good flow in those points. It'll be a weaker point. So you can kind of tell just from looking at those signs alone if the plastic was well made or was cheaply made, if it's structurally sound, if it's not structurally sound. Look at a chair, these plastic chairs that are made, and you can see a lot of those in there. Those are giant injection molding machines. So I was just elaborating on your point and going into what I found fascinating when I was learning the amazing parts of plastic injection and what I saw in products and tools. So did he get?
And he's lost.
That's the
I was
best.
like, wow,
But he looks so happy.
Like, I'm laughing like the things going on in my head. Like while Josh is talking, I'm like,
yeah, what is he? I thought he was offended by what I was saying or something.
And he was just.
We love
It is the
technology
day
here.
of internet issues. Goodness.
Now, if AI could only fix internet,
Gosh.
Yeah. So I mean, I think one of the things that's super cool is so far everybody we've talked to, one of the things, including ourselves, is again we're talking about AI is not a replacement for human beings. AI isn't a replacement for creativity. AI might be the juice that gets our creative juices flowing and stuff like that. I mean, it's just amazing the things that we do in our lives, that if you were to just try to use AI just a little bit, just to see if it helps. And I love to put my fingers up. I'm like, yeah, look, that's that green screen. See how crisp they are? They're nice. And so
something else I was going to add to this too, and how unique and how beautiful, because plastics gets a bad reputation to an extent because everyone sees the litter, the straw, the whole straw issue we had a number of years ago. If you think about aluminum cans were the same way. When aluminum cans first came out, people were going nuts. And then they realized, okay, we got to recycle this stuff. They started recycling it. There was a cost savings to it. And now cans, no one would even bat an eye, even though sometimes you see, some of these cans everywhere.
There's commercials. There's commercials that are like, hey, aluminum's better. This is easier to recycle and is better than plastic. Like, and they're like, just use it. Use aluminum over that.
Sometimes. But plastics is very recyclable, and it'll get more and more recyclable as the technology continues. But you take a plastic bottle. Not all plastics are and I forget the designation. If Andrew was here, I would have let him speak to this, but the ones that are, and I'd say about 80% are, you can Peak is not. What they do with Peak is not generally recyclable.
So the thing though is right. PK or Peak is not recyclable. But one of the things that people he's swapped over to the cell phone people.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my computer. I got the blue screen of death.
Oh no!
Ooh, you were thought you were so disappointed in me when you froze. What I was saying.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sorry about that.
So one of the things though that people, it's so insane that people have such horrible knee-jerk reactions about things, and one of those knee-jerk reactions we have right now is like end all ONG, end it all. And then you turn around and you find out this guy here has an injection place, and they're like, yeah, see, he does all these oil and gas things. It's like, yeah, but all that same oil and gas things goes into knee replacements. Have you seen new knee replacements or prosthetics? Talking about helping
aerospace.
People. Well, not even the aerospace stuff. The aerospace stuff is cool. But the thing that's amazing is the things that this company does to actually help people live a better, more pain-free life without the need to be doped up all the time on medication. And so you want to get rid of ONG and you want to get rid of all plastics. You have just set back millions of people and their lifestyles just because they don't have what they need to be able to get it done.
If I could chime in with something about that too. During the COVID lockdown period where we weren't sure what really was going on, what was happening, HPP remained open the entire time. But a lot of what the medical parts we were making got converted into COVID testing, right? So stuff that would go to lab facilities. And it was really critically important that we stayed open and continued to produce parts because these things were testing people who suspected of COVID and hopefully saved lives. And at the other time too, is we were making some ventilation equipment, things that were life-saving equipment that needed to be produced because at the time we were all concerned that ventilators were going to be on short supply. We even had phone calls with let's say FEMA or DHS about how we could potentially assembling final ventilators, right, to provide to hospitals. This was in the early stages of COVID lockdown, but these were things that were really concerning to the folks in charge and to our leaders. And it was important to our employees that they knew that the parts that we were producing, the parts that they were working on, were helping people and hopefully saving lives.
Yeah, man, that is having your
manufacturing truly is the number. It's the number one line of defense for any country is manufacturing capabilities,
which is why
it saves lives.
Yeah, plastic saves lives. I mean, it might not be
except when it's a straw.
Yeah, I was about to say a straw sticking out of a turtle's nose.
You think about it this way: instead of drinking from a glass where somebody has either touched it or it wasn't washed properly all the way, the straw is helping you prevent, getting an infection of some sort. It's just small stuff. But yeah,
Plastic
it should not be
is
thrown
the
in
new
the ocean.
brass.
Mhm.
Yeah, plastic is the new brass. I mean, people don't realize this. The reason why your doorknobs, brass, BRASS, brass. So the reason why brass was used in so many things from the 1800s all the way up until the 60s and 70s, once plastics really started becoming a part of our lives, is because brass has on its own an antimicrobial film that forms over it from being touched by the oils of our skin and stuff like that. And so plastic is the new brass. It really is. Instead of it saving it from being antimicrobial, you just throw it in the trash and you get a brand new one coming out.
Yeah, and the single time use plastics is a dirty word. I know a lot of people don't like it. And there are a lot of ways we can improve as an industry of capturing waste and diverting waste from landfills and repurposing it.
Yep.
And I think that's where AI is really going to be interesting of how it comes up with ideas and ways to collect information and come up with better ways to do
Yep.
things. But single time use plastics are important in the medical industry because you don't want to use the same testing equipment on multiple patients, right? There's a reason why they use a new strip per patient, right? They're not, or a new syringe on a patient. You don't want to reintroduce bacteria and viruses and spread disease around people.
Correct.
So single time use plastics are important, but it's also important to find a way to capture that waste.
And I mean, I think that's one of the things though, is like when you're talking about medical stuff, those medical offices and hospitals, they're probably better at actually reusing that waste than anybody else. I mean, they have specific sharps boxes, plastics boxes, like all those things. If it's not something that's going to be actually carrying a bloodborne pathogen, like they're incredibly good about recycling and making sure that things are going to proper like there are places to be either disposed of through incineration or being able to be recycled so they can go through and be cleaned that way. So, I mean, even then, plastics in your realm, when it comes to the medical industry, are very reusable. It is single use, but it's single use because it's going to be recycled and be turned into another single use product all over again. So single use is not its life cycle. Single use, or the plastics life cycle, is that parts lifestyle,
Right,
life cycle. Yeah. Well, man, we really appreciate you coming on. We understand that you had some technical difficulties. I'm digging the Astro shirt now that you're portrait instead of landscaped. I can actually see the Astros logo on there, and it warms my heart.
Going to the game tomorrow, so we're excited.
I won't be going until the 21st. It's been a little while since I've been, but I've been a little disappointed in the way we've been playing lately anyway. So, well, man, if you had an elevator pitch, if you got one, you got 15 seconds. Give us your elevator pitch. You just met me.
Well, HEP is molding the world, literally. We have product on every continent and outer space. So if there's something that needs to be done and produced, we can do it. It's just a matter of cost and time, and that's where we excel. Is we've got a lot of experience, decades of experience across our departments, and there isn't something that we haven't seen, and there isn't something that we can't make. It just takes time and effort and putting our collective heads together and figuring it out. We are problem solvers for sure.
100%.
Awesome.
Love it.
You can't beat that. Man, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us about y'all's company. We love to hear about locally, personally owned companies, no large major corporation, and doing some manufacturing right here in the United States. It's amazing. Y'all are a blessing. We thank you so much for everything y'all do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, JP, Alyssa, Josh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate having the opportunity to be on your podcast. Thank you.
All right,
See
man.
you,
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That's
Awesome.
freaking cool, dude.
I love that tagline. They're molding the world.
They're molding the world. Yes.
Because
how amazing
they're
is
literally everywhere and not even in the world.
Yeah,
some of the pieces and parts that I saw, and this was 10, 12 years ago, long time ago, were just amazing to see even if it was a piece of a bigger part, to see what that went into and how much it meant to the bigger part was cool. I mean, there's pieces they had that he was talking about downhole that they literally explode once they get it down there. So it is single use. But it's, I mean, just it's just crazy what plastics can do and how it's elevated our game. And there's two sides to this. To every time you get into this conversation with plastics or anything else that's a newer technology that brings us into a newer field, but it also has the environmental impact. The thing that gets at that progresses those industries the most is technology and money. And the only way you do that is to continue forward and just alleviate the pain points as you go. So I hear so many people talk about plastics. We need to get rid of plastics. You can't get rid of plastics at this point. It's literally in everything. Even if you took away the ONG, like you said before, it's in clothes, it's in your shoes, it's in your makeup, it's in everything. And so, you know, putting the foot down and pushing forward is the way that you produce efficiencies, and AI is going to be a huge part of that. I think that's going to be an environmental saver eventually as well.
Yep. So it's funny, you know, when you talk about accepting new technology and stuff, and I mean, I can't help it. I'm a gun guy. But the deal is so if you go back, and I couldn't remember what year it was started, but in 1982, the Austrian government and the German government put out a bid for new sidearms that they wanted that were going to be cheap and reliable. And they put out this bid, and basically this guy that worked for the government, he named Gaston Glock, worked for the government making rods and hangers and stuff like that, like real small, cheap metal parts for the government. And he was like, well, can anybody do it? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Anybody can do it. Well, one of the things that he had just started getting into and getting interested in is plastic injection molding. And so Glock being born, I think it was the Glock 17. Yeah, I think it was the Glock 17 was the very first Glock to ever be manufactured in 1982. And
I thought he was
pushed in.
The desk.
Yeah, I'm not a Glock guy. I don't like Glocks. Personally, it's a personal thing. It's not that I don't get it, but you know, so anyhow, they came out with these Glocks, and everybody made fun of them. Oh, it's a plastic gun. Plastic gun. Now you can't
They're all plastic.
Yeah. If you find the only people that use steel are people who use competition, because they need the additional weight. The plastic guns have gotten so reliable and so cheap. And so, I mean, you can go buy a nice pistol for $200, $250, something like that. It's insane what plastics have done in this world.
I mean, not even just structurally, but thinking of the heat distribution, you know, especially on long rifles and stuff like that, the fact that you can have those grips and things that distribute that heat. Whereas before, you knew you were holding on a gun, it's going to overheat, but you're just going to have to take it, you know, in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Now you've got the concepts that come out on these guns is crazy. Yeah. One of the biggest things we worked on was, you know, you always have changes in legal in legalities. And even now, you know, after these tragic shootings, we still continue to try and figure that one out. But one of the cool things that they had worked on, and that I had personally worked on one time, was, you know, you can't have rifles in the military on base. Even the security guards, they would have 9mm or a handgun. So they were developing all these, and now they're pretty standard. You see them all over the place, but they would basically build a pocket for that 9mm to get into a shoulder holster, so that you could actually increase your range, basically making that 9mm into a rifle. Even though the barrel was not as long, you had much more maneuverability and stability, so you could get contact. Yep. So that was a cool one we worked on a number of years ago that I always remember and thought that was really cool. And that's, you know, you hear about bump stocks and all these other things. All that's through plastics, you know?
Yep. Wonders of engineering with plastics.
Alyssa, what do you think of plastics?
There's so much that we don't know.
This is true.
It's actually funny. I agree with that 100%. Like, there's so much that we don't know. I mean,
well, it's just, I mean, as Josh was saying about all of you can't get rid of it now because it's everywhere. And I think many people forget. I mean, even my stainless steel tumbler. Like, okay, so it's supposedly stainless steel. The inside of the cup or the straw, plastic. Like, it's everywhere.
Everything, your vehicle, automobiles. Oh my God, there's so much plastic in there. In fact, it looks like leather now, a lot of it, and it's fake leather that's plastic. It's amazing.
Well, the coating that you're using is a ceramic. It's a ceramic based coating, but that ceramic based coating is impregnated with plastics and polymers. It just is what it is. You know, it's one of those things where I get it. You know, nobody likes to see sea turtles with straws or orcas with, you know, plastic hanging off their tail, or sea lions and stuff like that. And it's horrible. And there's been a lot of death created through or in our marine ecosystems because of it. But at the same time,
microplastics. Yeah.
Now the microplastic
that's not
thing,
a
man, I'm not
plastics
sure.
issue. That's a waste issue.
It's a human responsibility issue.
Yeah, that's.
Yep.
I mean,
personal responsibility has gone out the door.
Well, and I mean, and look, we don't get political here, and I'm not trying to get political, but it comes down to it. No matter how you look at it, I get so tired of people trying to ban things. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why don't we just make drug use illegal? Oh, wait, it is. How about we just make murder illegal? Oh, wait, it is. How about we make dumping plastic waste into the oceans illegal? Oh, shit, it already is.
Illegal.
I mean, it has nothing to do with what is and isn't made illegal. It has to do with humans being responsible enough to actually follow the laws.
Yeah.
That are going
and
to.
Unfortunately, we share that with other countries, and people forget that too.
Yeah.
You know, we are probably one of the most giving countries in the world, probably one of the most responsible. When I was in oil and gas here compared to some of the things I've heard from my buddies who are overseas, it's night and day. So when you argue about oil and gas here, you're pushing the production over there, and we're still on the same earth. So all you did was push it a little further away, and they're not following the same restrictions that we do. Mm-hmm. So every time you push things out of the United States, it becomes, it's not helping the problem, it's hurting the problem, because those countries don't give about those same standards.
They don't give a chicken's butt about it. No. And the thing that they like, so if you want to really like look at it, back when it first came out, Gold Rush, the TV show on the Discovery Channel, man, I was a huge fan of it. And I can remember the first time they went down to South America to start, mining gold in South America. And this dude was like, oh yeah, man, this is how you do it. And this is how I make, millions of dollars a year in Guyana. And it's like, what do you do? You're like, okay, well, you gather all this stuff, and how do you collect the gold? It's like, oh, I just, pour mercury all over everything. I'm not touching that shit. Somebody else is. And it's like, whoa, you guys mine with mercury? Like, that's heavy metal, right? Like, you're killing all of your workers. Yeah, but I'll make millions doing it. It's okay.
It's not me.
No, it's not me. And that's
it's a selfish way to do business.
But that's the problem here in America. We have this thing where we say, oh, well, we are so oppressed and we have so many problems, and we should be the ones leading the world. We are the ones leading the world. We are the tip of the spear when it comes to cleaning our lives up, cleaning up the planet, and all that stuff. But the thing is we because we're the tip of the spear, we see the worst of everything. We see that very first massive economic boom where people go and they take advantage of people, and we're the ones that regulate it very quickly and say, no, you can't do that anymore. And it's a lot easier for us to deal with it here than it is over in other countries.
Well, and once it gets over there, even the best of us Americans, when you don't see it directly, it's an afterthought. It's not even something you think about. I mean, I found this out yesterday, and it's in manufacturing, but not necessarily plastics. But I didn't know this, but they said almost 60% of chocolate is actually harvested still by child slavery. So any chocolate you eat, you're almost guaranteed to eat chocolate. So they did this. The guy was talking to his class, and he goes, here, have this candy. And he had some African-American students up front that he was talking to, and they eat the candy. They're like, oh, I love this. And he goes, and then he gave that fact, and they're like, he goes, have another piece. And all of them were like, because that's the biggest problem is everybody here should be focusing on how do we make it better everywhere else and have them have the same standards and uphold to the same standards. And that takes time, generations, lots of investment, and but not devaluing the money making here, because money making here drives that everywhere else. So it's a tricky thing to do on a global scale.
It is, and it's an unfortunate part that it's so tricky. But the thing is you've got so many different cultures that you have to deal with. I mean, like that's one of the reasons why I got out of dealing with residential stuff, and the reason why Alyssa is so good at it. She's so good at connecting on an emotional level with people and building relationships from that standpoint. And whereas I am like, I don't care that your kid puked in that corner 50 years ago. I'm like, your house is worth 200 grand. And if you replace the floors, it's worth 210, but it's going to cost you 10 grand to replace the floors. So that's stupid. Let's just sell your house. But my kid had Christmas over there. I'm like, I don't care. Where Alyssa, how do you respond?
I completely understand.
But it's genuine, right? Like it's genuine. You've got your children, and you understand the housing. I mean, like to the point where you guys just got done lifting your house, so that now your house is above BFE, so that you have a house that's going to be there for years and years to come, so that y'all can continue to raise.
How was that process? Not to divert, but the topics. But
no.
How was that process?
How long does it take?
Yeah, how was it? You did it under FEMA?
Oh, how was it? Yeah, it was a FEMA grant, and it took the actual lifting of the house took 4 months, 4.5 months. But we applied for the first time in November of 2017.
Did you get 100%, or what percentage did you get?
Did. We got 100%.
Wow.
Now
I need to look into that.
That just gets the house up. That doesn't get it
to grade
approved, but
yeah. But I mean, still, by the time you get done, like I said, you now have a home that you can raise your kids in, will last through flooding. You're not going to have to be doing remodeling on your house. We live in Houston,
and hopefully you're not getting shaked by insurance. Like insurance is just crazy right now.
Yeah.
No, our flood insurance went down, but our homeowners insurance is still just our whole area.
Like we don't care.
That's a different topic. We can bring somebody else in for that.
Well, we did. We started off with John Bramlett, right? And they're like,
that's right.
Yeah. Where do you live? You live on the water? Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's like, you live on the water? Congratulations. Here's your insurance bill. Have a nice day.
Well, man, this was a great conversation, and man,
definitely a little bit different.
It was exciting to get some manufacturing in here, because that's such a huge part of the economy, huge part of business, and it's a very important part. In fact, I wish we were more like Germany. Germany's very, very protective of their manufacturing. You almost can't touch it. It's so closed off, and how much they want to protect their manufacturing arms within and companies within.
So we got that way, right? We're talking about business.
We
There's no
should
reason for
be
us not to touch these. Yeah. So here's the thing is like the reason why there's so many low paying American jobs instead of the high paying American jobs is because we literally made it more expensive for them to be here manufacturing with us. And it wasn't just labor, taxes, restrictions. Do you know how hard it is to build a new plant here in the United States if you go through the EPA process? On top of the fact that it's just cost prohibitive, on top
we're overregulated.
Then you turn around, you have to look at the state regulations on top of the federal regulations. And so the Keystone Pipeline is a multi-billion-dollar project that could easily just fund thousands and thousands of jobs here in the United States. And yet it's like this massive point of contention because people are worried that they're going to have a gas line going through their backyard. This is not your backyard. This going through farmland. Yeah, sure. Is it dangerous? Yeah, but you know what it's less dangerous than? It's less dangerous than trains. It's way less dangerous than trucks. It's way less dangerous than that. And it still doesn't hurt those industries because we're bringing in new gas that's being injected into it that we're buying from overseas. So we're bringing in
And this goes back to my point about sometimes technologies, you just got to put your foot down and go with it, because the environmental cost is over time far less. And all the things that you can come up with that could be problems for that are taken care of through technology and time, because they don't want a gas company doesn't want to lose their oil or gas coming through pipelines. So of course they don't want to see it explode. There's no company on earth that goes, I want to see this explode. Right. They build these things for redundancy and to make sure that they are working correctly, because that's waste. That's lost money. And again, these companies operate on money. So the best way to support that is to let those projects go through. I thought it was funny that he disapproved of that, but he approved of the one in Germany.
Yeah. Well, because it's not in his backyard. It comes back down to it's not in my backyard.
Exactly.
And
he probably got some money from it too.
Anyway, so the big, I'm trying not to touch that. So, I mean, but the thing is again, one of the things that we didn't foresee happening when Trump put in all the tariffs against Chinese is what we didn't see was the Chinese moving all of their manufacturing into Mexico, and then saying, well, you know what, that's fine. Mexico is not quite as cheap as here because we don't basically have the equivalent to slave labor here. However, we can make all of the cotton stuff, everything that we're doing over here, ship it to be assembled and finished manufacturing there in Mexico, avoid the tariffs, because Mexico's like, well, heck yeah, send us all your manufacturing. We're happy with that. And then now they get to avoid the tariff. I mean, NAFTA is now haunting us in a whole new way. It's great to be American. And on an economic,
I gotta run.
All right, see you later, lady. And then on an economic scale, sometimes, man, it's like, oh my God, really? Like it's not that it's bad to be an American ever, but it's a pain in the neck because being an American is so good. I hate to.
We get in our own way sometimes. Yeah,
we're very
well, and the founding fathers wanted everything slow for a reason. So I mean, you got to be somewhat thankful that we don't have quick changes, also for the very fact that those quick changes could lead us down a bad road as well. So.
Right.
It's give and take. I just wish we had less regulations so that we could. I mean, does anyone here think that the EPA and the FDA protects our food better than anywhere else because of those regulations? No. In fact, we're probably getting poisoned more because of it.
That's
so,
right. Yep. Yeah. So
everything feeds everything. Medical complex.
We're leaving off on a tough footnote. It's great to be an American. It's even great.
We'll have a whole show on that one day.
Right. It's even better to be a Texan, and it's even better than that to be a Houstonian, the birthplace of Texas, right here down the street from us here in Deer Park. We love you guys. We're signing off in a weird place. We're going to leave it there. Let it simmer. And,
let it simmer.
Yep. And we'll see you guys next week.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and let us know what you want to see. You know, more. You want some aerospace. You want some NASA. You want some restaurants. Let us know, because you guys dictate the show.
Yep. And I think I'm going to try to get, so we've got an AI guy coming. I'm going to try to see if I can't get Barbara Cutsinger to come and do a show for us. That would be awesome.
Cool.
Barbara Cutsinger with Bayhep is amazing. So, well, we're signing off, guys. Peace. See y'all later. Y'all have a blessed one. See you soon.